Good. All right, and I believe we're live. Everybody, welcome to our show about board games. I'm so excited. I have three wonderful guests. I'm coming to you live from Vancouver, Washington, and I've got three California folks to introduce.
Yeah.
Who are board game aficionados. Loren, I'll start with you. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us why you're on this show today?
Hey, my name's Loren. I love board games. Been playing them since I was probably, 6 years old. Just entertaining. I don't know if Hungry Hippos counts, but I think that's the first one I remember. Same with Rock'em Sock'em, like Rogup. But I remember kind of the original version of Family Feud. That was the one. There was an I Love Lucy game. It was pretty cool. It's like I Love Lucy Facts or something. And my dad was a big one who taught me how to play like different unique board games. It's like Quanto, like matching, poker, which I am not good at because I don't have a poker face and I keep forgetting the hands, even though I have to print them out. Mancala is something I remember from childhood. Like everyone played Mancala. Like that was, elementary school. Some of my favorite games I discovered, I used to be, I'm still licensed as a recreation therapist. So I worked as an activity director in a hospital for about 3 years. And so I had to find ways to keep patients entertained. I had the fun job. So board games was a big part, a way to socialize, increase social skills. And you can play this without giant spoons, but it's fun. I love going to board game cafes. I would love to just use this for my cereal. So you can have a regular deck of cards. You have to get 4 of a kind. So for kings, eights, it doesn't matter the suit. You put you put one less spoon than there are people. So if there's 5 people, you put 4 spoons. It's kind of like musical chairs, but with spoons. So once you get 4 of a kind, you grab a spoon, and obviously there's going to be one person who doesn't have one. They're out. It keeps going. It's a battle. It can get violent. People will grab spoons. They can scratch you. I had someone get so upset they knocked them all off the table. It was Thanksgiving. It was supposed to be a moment of bringing people together, but it didn't happen. So that's what I like to play with people who have calm temperaments. There's a game called Moods. This is a fun one I discovered. And so what you're doing is great if you have people who are like acting and expressing themselves. It brings all the introverts out. So there's 2 card decks and the board. So it's like numbered 1 to 12.
I want to come back to this question.
And so we're gonna get there. A lot to share. Love board games. So let's get to everyone else.
I have not played Moods yet, and I actually I'm not sure it qualifies as a board game, but we're not going to be difficult about that today. Okay, Marie, I'm going to go to you next.
Hi, very happy to be here. My name is Marie Pettit Gregson, and I'm coming to you from lovely Panorama City, California, or Van Nuys adjacent, whatever's better. My husband and I love playing board games, and I also grew up playing board games from being a kid. We always had board games in the house. I have older brothers, and there were always games to play. And my parents were big into dominoes and cards, but of course we got all the board games growing up. And I'm kind of dating myself here, but when you were talking about spoons, when I was growing up, I had the Mork and Mindy game. And it was also a card game, and you had your little aliens in your deck. And if you had like 3 of a kind, you would you'd lay them down and you'd yell nanu nanu, and you had to grab an egg. And there was 1 fewer egg than the players. And so it sounds just like, I'm like, oh, it's the Mork and Mindy.
There you go, similar concept. I like that better, nanu nanu.
And Mindy, but I do love Robin Williams, and I've seen clips from it, so I would like to actually watch an episode of it sometime.
Oh, it's so good.
All right, well, Josh, let's hear from you. You're in Orange. Are you technically in Orange County?
Oh no, it's been last time I was there was probably like, at least living there anyways, was like 8 years ago. I've been back to Riverside since, which is where I'm a native from. And yeah, I'm a pianist, piano instructor, and I feel like compared to all of you lovely veterans, I came to the board game scene a little bit late. Of course, we played chess, Monopoly, of course, Mancala too. But I was not really exposed to the huge variety of board games out there that is like between those classic titles, which sometimes came off as boring to me, and then giants like Gloomhaven, which take like hours to play. And so it was actually at one of my churches, I'm sort of, I guess, a bit of a traveling church pianist over the years. Since like 2009, I've played for maybe at least 5 or 6 different churches. And one of the family members of the choir of the church I was playing in around 16 or 17, I'd say, introduced me to Rummikub for the first time.
Yes.
I was like,
that's a good one. Yeah.
It's such a simple game in that it only uses, well, actually, you could reproduce it with a deck of cards, 1 through 13, and then 4 colors. And of course, those could line up with the 4 suits. And basically, you've got your hand. The original game uses tiles. I should probably get it, actually. And you win when you empty your hand. But you can only do so under 2 certain conditions. You have runs of the same color. So for example, blue 1, blue 2, blue 3, or blue 10, blue 11, blue 12, or 3 of a kind. So let's say you had like a red one, blue one, black one, then you'd be able to put those down. That sounds fairly simple on its own, but where the craziness comes in is that everyone shares on the table all of the pieces that you can create combinations of. So if you see a piece that someone else played that allows you to play pieces that you previously couldn't, you can just reorganize anything. As long as it follows those 2 rules, you can completely just jumble up the board or the table. So I was like, whoa, there is so much more to board games. And especially now with the situation of the pandemic, my friends and I, former roommates and other friends who I've made over the years, have been able to discover really amazing sites where we can actually play digital versions of these board games. For example, on boardgamearena.com, which is, ironically, it's actually European, but we have full access to it here as well. It has hundreds of games. So does Tabletopia, and Tabletopia is arguably even more complex because it actually simulates everything in full 3D. So you're actually picking up the pieces on your computer using your mouse and adjusting things manually. So it's sort of like a free version of Tabletop Simulator.
I want to talk about this more. The pandemic is, I mean, you're leading us right into what really our first question. But I will stop and introduce myself a little bit just about my connection to board games, because I want to go back to what each of you said a little bit, especially because you reminded me of is it Mancala?
Yeah.
Mancala, which is interesting because as a kid, depending where I was, like I grew up in rural Illinois, and my Chicago Jewish grandparents had Mancala, and they had this old precursor or contemporary of Monopoly, which was called Finance. And it was a lot like Monopoly, and I learned Monopoly first, I think, at home. But as a little kid, we had this other thing that was like, it had the wooden houses. It was probably from like the 1930s or 40s or 50s. I really don't know, but old stuff along with like.
That's why the houses were wooden.
Yep. And I mean, my grandparents were on that side, I think they were born in the 19 teens, like 1915, 1916. Anyways, so I grew up with Monopoly and Scrabble mostly. Scrabble is still very big in my family. Monopoly was like that thing that, like, as in junior high, like I'd be the one with like my sister and our other friend that I'd be like, we're gonna stay up all night and play this, you know, until somebody wins. Totally annihilate. Everybody's upset. They just want to go to bed. They want to do something else. They just want to watch a movie, and I'm just like, no, there will be a winner. Like,
I think
we did
the
that with
longest game of Monopoly recorded was 3 days. 3 days. Dedication right there. You can lose players, but no, they took a pact.
honestly, board games for me in Los Angeles has mostly been with my friend Matt, whose birthday is St. Patrick's Day, and who didn't want to come on this show or talk about himself. However, I've been introduced to many, many board games from him, including those kinds of like multi-layer games where usually we have like a marathon board game day for his birthday. And it's been really sad for the pandemic that now there's two years gone by where we can't do that. But we can play board games via Zoom or via the web. So I'd like to hear what your experiences have been like. Marie said that, sorry, I can pronounce people's names. That you and your husband have figured out some good board games that you could play over Zoom without having to use the web.
We did, because before we even realized that some of the games were available, you know, via websites, we were just determined. We're like, we're gonna play. So we have an entire game closet that's 6 shelves high of games. And we were like, open the closet, and we're like, what can we play on Zoom? And so we just started testing games and trying different ones. And on some of the games, we actually set up, like everyone would call in for Zoom, and then we would set up a second phone and also call in, and he put that phone on a tripod so it would rest over the table, and the board, we would set up the board, and then the phone would be over. And so it would be a dedicated screen. Like we have 4 of us here, one screen would be the board game. And so everyone could see what was happening, and we'd move pieces as needed, depending on what the game was. And in some cases, if there are cards involved and the other players don't have the game, like if it's like for one of the games I'll talk about, code names, if you're the spy, the head spy master, you have a card, and we would just take a picture of it and send it to whoever was playing that role in that round of the game. And so they'd have it on their phone so they could see it. Or if we needed people to see a card, we would put it on the dedicated camera and be like, okay, if you need to see that card, you can look in that window, but everybody else don't. And everybody, we were pretty trustworthy. So
that's intense. That's really a lot to think about. I've not done anything that elaborate. We're like, here's your secret breakout room where you could go or anything like that. That's next level.
We were determined. We're like, we've got to play, and we missed it a lot.
Yeah, by the way, we've got 4 viewers, including Daniel Corey, who's the friend that introduced Marie and me.
Hey.
Exciting. So if any of you watching want to post a comment or a question or tell us about your favorite board game, I'll try to jump in and bring you into the conversation. But Loren, how about you? What has the board game been like? Have you been able to do some board gaming since the pandemic started?
Online.
Well, if you were playing board games in person, you want to talk about it. I'm not,
I haven't in person. I guess was it in 20, maybe it was last year. Yeah, Jackbox TV is a site that I was introduced to. And I'm forgetting some of it, but there's this one game called The Joke Boat, and I love telling jokes and making them. And so it's coming up with a big joke. Like they give you a sentence or a concept and a theme, and then you're trying to make a joke based on that, and whoever has the best joke, or they vote for it. And then if your joke doesn't get voted for, you're like, I'm not funny. It's like, you're like, okay, I could do better. And there's ones like that one, was it the wolf, or who, like you're trying to find out who is like the alien or
werewolf.
Yeah, but there's other concepts. It's like a certain theme, but they have different names for it. But it was great. That one, and I know with Josh, like I said, Catan, is that it? Building Civilizations. So this is all like introduced to me because I wasn't familiar with those sites at first, but I really like them. Anything where it involves strategy, kind of doing some investigation. I like those. Usually I've done them in person, but of course with COVID, you can't do that. But it's great to be able to play from the convenience of your home. So those are a couple that I can think of on the top of my head.
We had a good time. We played at that place in Burbank that now the name is suddenly escaping me. But we played the Exploding Kittens game.
Yes, I was going to talk about that. Man, I love cats, and that game, yeah, it gives everyone anxiety. It's like kind of like Old Maid. It's like you're just and Uno, you're like, oh, I don't want to get the exploding cat, and people just hold on to those cards. And then I love the graphics on them. They have like a watermelon cat, taco cat. I don't know.
Showing you cards because I don't think they're that disturbing. I wouldn't even be willing to play.
No, they're not. It's disturbing. No, it's just like, oh, I don't want to get the exploding cat, like that part.
Yeah, I hear you. Like,
It's very cartoony.
no, we like animals here. Like we're people.
Oh yeah, you saw I Got Cats. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so
And the place,
Back on
the
camera.
adoption agency for cats also, right?
DKT's. That's the name of the place.
Yes.
It's in Burbank, and it's lovely. And you can we used to have birthday parties there. They have tea that they make their own tea blends. They have they sell 1 million board games. They also sell coffee, tea, and like British specialty jams and things, and like Doctor Who stuff and all that stuff. Anyway, and they have cats.
The only thing with their coffee is that if you don't like your coffee black, then because that's the only option. It's just straight espresso and it's intense.
Well, I wonder if that might change. You have to ask Donna about that. All right, Josh. Josh, you and I have played some online board game arena. You mentioned Tabletopia, and then have you done other Zoom board game things, or do you mostly just stick to those?
I've got to hand it to Marie is on another level. That is crazy what setups she does. And actually, it's still relevant because not all games are on BGA or on Tabletopia or on Tabletop Simulator. So some games might still have to be done in some.
And it's not as effective. I mean, if you get on Board Game Arena, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about Discord because I think you to talk about Discord a little bit, but we don't do that right now. So take it away, Josh. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I was gonna show because you said that you wanted me to present a really, well, frankly, a really weird game that I have from my stash. Definitely cannot
play this over Zoom, by the way. There's no way unless you could never play this game over Zoom.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It can't be played online at all because it's very skill based.
No highway. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me let's see. This particular game I saw at a Barnes and Noble. I had never heard of it. I thought, wow, this is a really strange game, which I thought I might like to learn more about. Let me see if I can. Okay. You have, let's see. Basically, let me see if I can just show a little bit of the box itself, because this pretty much shows what you're building. Ultimately.
Yeah, tough to see from there. You'd have to hold it a little closer to the camera for us to.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's like a really serious structure. Like you're in your basically.
Looks like the LA freeway system.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. What it involves.
Transamerica on crack.
Right. So basically, the way players work is you have a bag of your cards, whatever color you've got. For example, someone else will be playing with orange or so on. And you have one road that you continue to use the entire time. And you pretty much snake your path across an enemy road. So for example,
obstacle sticks, basically those things that he's laying down. There's like little round wooden things, and then there's like those are like popsicle sticks. They don't have anything to connect anything.
Yeah, it's really just a popsicle stick. And then you have what's a support. It's just a plastic, or actually it might be wooden cylinder. And basically, after the first free car, for the most part, you have to build plus or minus one road over another enemy's road to be able to place down a car. So this, because it crosses, then you can place a car, and if you use up all your cars, you win. So then it becomes this game of chicken where they're all just building all around, because there are certain other rules that prevent you from, like,
Well, it's not collaborative. You're not a team. You are
no, not at all. You're at each other's throats.
So you're trying to sabotage someone from, like, you can prevent someone from building a road across yours?
Pretty much, yeah. Based on how you set your car, and you can even set it in such a way that it's very easy to knock over. Because if you knock over someone else's road, if you knock over your own, you can set it. You have to set it back, but there's no penalty. If you knock over someone else's stuff, you have to set theirs back, and you pay the price in supports to them, so they can purpose.
But like the adult version or something on crack. Do you remember pickup sticks?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of Jenga, Mousetrap, and Hot Wheels combined.
Please continue. Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, it's pretty crazy because you eventually you will run out of supports if you're not careful enough, and if you run out of supports to build stuff with, then you lose too. So you have to be sure that you don't go too high. And there are certain other elements, like, for example, junctions, which allow you to split off into a Y shape that allows you to, let's see. Yeah, that allows you to plan more strategically. But other than that, that's pretty much it. It was just a very interesting game that I saw. Doesn't use cards, doesn't use tiles. It doesn't fit to a grid. It's just freestyle all over the place. And then you have these little skyscrapers, which
stuff, don't you? Like the idea that there's like so many infinite number of combinations and possibilities, that sort of seems to appeal to you, Josh.
Yeah. That's also another thing that was very interesting, is that technically it's a game of perfect information. And that means that there's nothing that's left up to chance. You're not drawing out of a bag. You can't like blame a random number generator for your failure. Everyone is playing like you could technically potentially like predict everything, every possible position, but you know, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, and everybody's mind is different. Now, I don't really like chess because I don't like to be taxed in that way, or risk. I don't like my board games to be filled with so much having to predict the move of the other or the infinite future possibilities. I don't mind that in other arenas, but I'm just like, aren't board games supposed to be fun? But I know that is fun for a lot of people. So that's, and maybe someday my brain will get there. All right. Who's next? Who wants to talk about their favorite board game next? I know Marie said she's going to set up code names or show us.
I can tell you about that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Code names, and just so you know, we did discover that you can go to codenames.game and you can play it online. But you know, why do that when you can set up a tripod and do stuff? But you can. But code names, so this was introduced to me. I owe a lot of my current gameplay to my cousin. He was my roommate when I first moved to LA, and we had so much fun, and we just played games all the time. And he introduced me to German board games, which is a whole other, like Catan, those are German board games. And there's several game designers that make a lot of the really popular ones, Ticket to Ride, things like that. And so I learned this whole new world of board games. So whenever he says, here's a game I think you're gonna like, he's probably right. So a few years ago, he said, here's your new favorite game. And it is called Codenames. And since then, there's different versions of it. There's a 2-player, there's pictorial ones. There's Codenames After Dark with dirty words. Do not play that with your parents.
Why? Why would you do that?
Unless your parents are really cool.
Even then.
But Codenames, so it's really fun. And you have 2 teams, and the board is a grid of cards. So you lay a bunch of cards down in a big 5x5 grid. So you end up with 25 cards on the board. And all those cards represent spies. They're spy names, like, ooh, it's the spy named Pass. And he got the short stick, but so you have all these spies and you have two teams and you're trying to figure out who your spies are. So each team has one spy master and they get a grid card. And this is what we would take a picture of and send to whoever the spy masters are. So it's like, oh, I'm the red ones, you're the blue ones, there's neutral, and then there's one death card. You can't guess the death card or it's over. So you study this and you figure out how to give people clues to figure out who's on my team, who are my blue spies or who are my red spies. So let's say I had Pass and Stick and maybe Game and Tooth. These are all words on the board. I'm trying to think of a clue that could tie all these things together. So you sit there and you think, you got to think about it for a while, but you try to connect these. So maybe I would say something like hockey, because it uses a stick, it's a game, you pass the puck, and maybe you lose a tooth. So if those are all my cards, I could be like, all right, our clue is hockey, and we've got 4 spies out there that match hockey. So my players, my team would try and figure out which cards belong to us.
Is it possible to show us, Marie, a little bit what the board looks like on the table?
I don't.
I've played it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
What? I'm like, how do I have this set up? Hey, look, there's my lap.
All good. Sorry to put you on the spot.
These cards set
I'm down, something like that.
on the board.
Yeah.
So you would have a board like this. So this would be your board, but there's 25 of them.
Right.
So you're going to have a bunch of other cards also.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, I didn't quite go the next step. But so you have a whole thing like this. So maybe you'll say hockey, and those are 4 of our cards. But what if Tooth doesn't belong to you? So you have all these cards, but Tooth isn't yours. Maybe you don't want to say hockey. Maybe you want to say polo, or what else uses a game and a stick, like highlight? Do people play that anymore? Or stickball, or but yeah, something. So you might say like polo 3 cards, and then they'll try and figure out what might fit polo, but they might not be sure. Maybe Europe is on the board and they're like, well, they play that in Europe. So you're trying to very skillfully guide them to your cards, and then you do your turn and they guess, and then it's the next player's turn, and you go until one of you finds all of your spies.
Now, if you're a perfectionist, which I'm a little bit of, and some of us may not want to confess that we are, but if this game can drive you crazy, because there is nothing, like, you can't perfectly prevent someone from accidentally picking the death card if they're not thinking the same way that you are.
Yes. So yeah, if you have stick and the death card is like, you know, a fence or post, you're like, oh, how am I going to get someone to say this and not that? And if they're like, oh, it's clearly this, and you're like, no, it's not. So,
so do you know which is the death card?
Yes. So if you're the spy master and you look at your grid, so you know these are mine, I'm red, you're blue, these are neutral, and there's one black card, and that's the death card. So you know, but the players don't, but both spy masters know.
And you know what the word is on the death card.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So so this matches up the 25, the 5x5 grid of cards on the table. And you look at this and you're like, oh, this is in the 3rd position on the right. This is one of mine. So it's the first
what about the white ones? What about the white squares?
Oh yeah. So those are neutral.
Okay.
So if you guess a neutral card, your turn's over, but it didn't hurt you. Like let's say I'm red and I accidentally got my team to say one of the blue cards. I cover it with a blue piece that shows that blue got one of their cards. So we basically gave them one of their cards.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's super fun. And like I said, the first couple times you play, you're kind of like, you know, it's a little bit of a mind melt, but after you've played it a couple times, you're like, okay, yeah, I want to be the spy master now. And then you start to kind of get a groove, and it's fun too, because if you play with people, you know, obviously that helps, because you'd be like, okay, my clue for you is Duran Duran, wink, wink. And you're like, oh yeah, I remember that album that came out, you know, that was our favorite album. But if you're playing with strangers, it's really an interesting thing. I went to a game day where I was on a team and I didn't know anyone on my team. And so it was just, okay, I have to just give you really good clues that anyone would know, not because of shared interest. And like I told the guy, I was like, just so you know, I know everything about Star Wars. I know nothing about Doctor Who, just so you know. And he was like, okay, I won't give you Doctor Who clues.
That's smart. That's smart. Yeah, it's always interesting too. If you're the first, a new person to a group of people that have been playing together for a long time, my gosh, I mean, sometimes it's fun, and then sometimes I'm just like, yeah, I don't know if I can do this today. Lorraine, why don't you tell us about moods? And thank you, Marie. That was really fun. Both of you guys did a great job demonstrating.
So moods, yeah, it's a great expressive game. Like, it's great to get your introverted friends out of their shell, and if you're like really into the arts, or you're an actor or something, then this is going to be great. So the board consists of 10, well, technically 11 squares, or 10, I guess. Like, so 0 to 9, and so you will line up some adjectives. So, it could be apologetic, it could be arrogant, or whatever. And then you have some other cards where they'll have expressions. And then you will roll the die. And so then whatever adjective it falls on, then you have to kind of say the phrase. So there's okay, this is a card. So that has a phrase. So it's like, is there room at your table? And say the adjective is angry. So you have to say it in an angry way. And that's pretty obvious. And then people are like, oh, they put like, you have pieces 1 through 5. So if you're really confident that, okay, yeah, I know it's angry, you put a 5 down. And if you get it right, then you get to move 5 spaces. And so you're, try to go from start to finish. So you'd be like, is there room at your table? And then some of the words sound similar. And then some of them you're like, how do I articulate this? Like sulking and like, oh, there's one like manly. And it's just, and then some of the phrases are just ridiculous. Like, I can't reach this itch, and then say that in a manly voice. Oh man, I can't reach this itch, man. And it makes people just be silly. Like, if you're not used to being like, you're like, oh man, I can't do it. Like, you're like, come on, try. Like, some people who are just not expressive at all, they have like a monotone voice, every single one. You're like, come on, dude. Like, I don't know. Like, what are you trying to say right now?
I'm not there now, but y'all live in basically a city full of actors. So, you got lots of expressive.
Yeah.
Really at a disadvantage.
Are some of the adjectives really close, like angry and agitated?
Yeah, like there's like anxious and nervous. So is like there's one like more than the other. Like there's panicky and nervous. And so what do you do? And it's like I don't know. So yeah, there's some words like indignant, and then it's like it's like, I gotta look at a dictionary and just like someone explain what that means. So it's fun. There's another one, if I can share one more. I love telestrations. I don't know if anyone's ever played that. It's like telephone with pictures, and you don't have to be an artist to like, succeed. I'm not the best person to draw, but it's fun. It can take a while to explain. Like, you have to go step by step because it will go over their head. So there's a little timer because you only have so long to draw. Some people can get really intricate. And so you have some cards that will you can start with. So you put your name, and then you have a secret word. So say it's cat. And then you will turn to the next page, and then you'll draw a cat, and then you pass it to the left, and everyone draws their word. Some are more intricate than others. And then the person has to be like, oh, what did she draw? What is that? Take a guess, write it out. oh, it's a cat. And then next person will like look at the word, oh, cat, draw, and it just goes around. And then by the end of the, you might go all the way to the end of the booklet. Usually I just go till like you go around, say there's 6 people, then you stop at 6. And then it's just funny, like looking at how people interpreted everything you've drawn. And some people mess up on purpose because it's just funnier. Like, it's just like, it's obviously a cat and they put like a house. I'm like, what is, like, come on. Or the, yeah. So it's that happened at Thanksgiving. Like one of my family friends, like she knew the rules. She's just breaking them. She's doing it on purpose. So yeah, it's fun. Yeah, my brother is really great at drawing. So he had to draw like a bridge, and it was like, just like drew like the Golden Gate Bridge like perfectly. It's like, well, I know what that is. But yet someone's like, oh, a piano? Like, come on.
Love those games. And I'm terrible at drawing, but I love Pictionary. I mean, it is so much fun, and to be able to use that different part of your brain to try to communicate and they stay in a good. And you can use, of course, the whiteboard. Last year I had a Zoom birthday party because I didn't know what else to do. And we used the whiteboard and everybody's just doodling things. It was really fun to see what people would just doodle, because I didn't feel like I didn't have the brain space to organize any games or anything. It was too early on and I was still working, and so there was just a lot going on. So but yeah, there must be ways to do Pictionary, and we played a version of some kind of Pictionary with the whiteboard early on last year.
Well, the nice thing is all you need is, as long as everyone has either a whiteboard or even just a pad of paper and a pen, you can make that work.
Yeah, I guess you staple together or just pass them around, or because some people will draw on the guest page and throw it all off, and you're like, oh man, like I don't who did that. And so
yeah,
you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out.
I'd like to play that with you guys sometime.
Yes.
I played a version of it, but I've never heard it called that before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I discovered a few years ago. It's definitely a newer game, or I don't know when it came out, but it's new to me. So
I love your headband, Lauren. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Yeah.
5 minutes. I also want to say, well, you had a question about what are your least favorite board games. So I do want to hear about this, because I think it's kind of fun to get our angst out about games that we absolutely hate.
Well, yeah, before we started, I know we were talking about Monopoly, and that's one of them.
Okay.
And so, like you were saying, you like it, but it can go on forever. There's no end. I don't like games that are not fair. It's built on extortion and capitalism. You go to jail. Like it deals with social justice. It's just everything. It's like I don't know how it's different from life, really. And so,
speaking of that, like I used to really like the game Life, but looking back on it, I don't like it. I think it's even worse than Monopoly, because it sort of gets you in this mindset of what success is, right? You have to have all the people you get to choose. Like, it doesn't have to be, but it's still about being rich, basically.
Yeah, it's not what we aspire to. Yeah.
And
then there's a game, Sorry, that is just sorry. Yeah. It's just, I remember that one. I just like the little pop, like, little number. I just keep playing with that, that's fun in itself. You're just bored, just pop, pop, pop.
Oh, that's not Sorry.
Oh yeah, Trouble with the little
pop. Oh, that's Trouble? Oh, there we go.
I like Sorry, but I'm not as familiar with Trouble, so I don't know if I like it. I don't mind games where you are mean to each other, as long as you're not really being mean. Like, if I feel like I'm being bullied and you're actually hurting me in the process, or you're like totally annihilating me and I feel embarrassed because I don't know anything. Like,
right.
Trivial Pursuit, like my mom and I are playing Trivial Pursuit. This is a true story. Well, my dad was busy over my Christmas, and we were pretty neck and neck. Then my dad came in late, so he was like 3 pieces of the pie behind us, and he came back and beat us both. Now, that doesn't upset me because he wasn't mean about it. It's just, it's unfair that he knows so much more. But we were also playing an old version of Trivial Pursuit, which is you know, kind of unfair to me because I didn't live through a lot of things that my parents lived through. So that's one thing, is just, you know, but if you're also going to be, you know, if you're picking on me, making me feel like crap while we're playing, then I don't like being beaten like that. And I probably won't forgive you for a while.
Yeah, there are people like that where any game, it's just competitive. I mean, you know, everyone's different. I'm not like that. It's just like, it's just a game. Like, who doesn't like winning and who doesn't like losing? But yeah, there's those people where in your face, whoa, like it's just, yeah. And then when they lose, just as upset, just sulking in the corner.
Yeah. Or with people, just friends that you've known for a long time. I think that like patterns could build up. You have to be careful. So having said that, are there some collaborative games that you guys like that are not just team games where you have two teams against each other, but where everybody's collaborating?
You had mentioned Hoopla. That Hoopla is great because you're all working together as one group, and basically everyone has cards and you're all beating the clock, and you have to do different tasks to get everyone to guess your cards, but it's all of you versus the clock. And that gets really fun because you get excited and you're like, okay, we've got one more, and everybody's working together. And I think that's a lot of fun in that way.
I've never heard of that one. Hoopla.
It's by the makers of Cranium.
Oh, okay, Cranium, yes.
So it's got similar categories like, oh, for this one you have to draw, for this one you have to act out. And they have other categories that are kind of original to, unique to Hoopla.
I didn't realize they were made by the same people, but yes, they are very similar games. Josh, you were going to say something.
Oh, well, I was going to say, yeah, there's no shortage of co-op games out there, which my particular gaming group has a huge amount of. Like, for example, like you did, I think you mentioned Pandemic. Yeah, that's a classic. Although, actually, I don't really like that too much. It seems to be a little too complex in certain ways, in terms of like all the different moves you can make and how the virus spreads, I suppose. There is a class of, or a group, I should say, of games which do follow that sort of turn-based clock with the pressure mounting based on what is drawn from a deck, and that's called, well, it's 3 games actually, sequels to each other: Forbidden Island, Forbidden Desert, and Forbidden Sky. I've only played the first 2. I think the third it's the most recent, so I don't think it has too many people I know of who have played it yet. But basically, all your characters, you work with up to maybe 3 or even 4 other people, and you are all trying to survive on an island or in a desert, trying to find certain like extremely rare artifacts and get out of there and book it before the island just completely floods in, or a tornado just ravages the desert and renders everything like inhospitable. There's also simple card games, because those can take some setup that in comparison, like 2 Stacks, which this is all there is. It's just a simple deck. It's very compact, and this is actually a new game which I very recently picked up. It's almost not found anywhere, but it's really neat in that you have, well, 2 stacks, right? The players say they get 4 cards each or so, and the one particular interesting thing about this is that everyone can see everyone's cards, and you can choose whose next turn it is for each one. It doesn't go in a circle. You can just pick, because it's so restricting to begin with in terms of like who can play, that this actually is really, it doesn't make it like too easy to win at all. And you have roll cards in which you have to play according to your role. Let me see if you can see this. For example, whoever gets this card can only play a number higher than what is present on either of the 2 stacks. So a 12 or a 3 or downward, any color, and then this, for example, plus or minus 1, but it has to be an alternating color. If it's blue, they gotta play red, and vice versa. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Like Uno.
Kind of in that, yeah, sort of, but there's quite a lot of strategy, because everyone's cards are open to everyone else, so you can plan like, all right, I'll play this card will shift our roles around the table, And so then your restrictions change, and then you can play this card and so on. It's yeah, it's very interesting. There's another one like that called The Game as well.
The Game?
Yeah, the game. I know it's
They didn't put a
that,
lot of thought into that, did they?
Yeah.
it's a terrible name because you can't find like it in search results basically. But it's very cool, and you can actually technically you can make it yourself out of just paper because it only uses numbers 1 through 100, and that is a very sorry.
Paper. How are you gonna say 1 through 10 or something?
Oh yeah, it would take some time to make, but yeah, that is basically something like the opposite, in which you can't see what other people have, and you can't even talk about what you have, and you still have to play cooperatively so that you can all place your randomly drawn cards in orders of 4 different stacks. Like 2 sets proceed from 1 up to 100, and so you can only play upwards on those, and then the other 2 proceed downwards. So for example, if say, I don't know, 49 gets missed on both of the paths going up, then someone might still be able to play it on one of the 2 paths going down. And then there's another rule that temporarily allows like hopscotching back if you need more. Well, there's not time because it's turns, but turns, I guess. Yeah, if you need more turns.
Cool.
Yeah, there's no shortage of co-op games. So if people don't like to crush others or give other people a chance to bully them, play a co-op game.
That's good. Thank you. Yeah, and thank you for mentioning those Forbidden Island games because I was trying to remember the name of those and I couldn't. Marie?
A quick semi-cooperative, you're still playing to win yourself, but this game called Taiwan On, it's semi-cooperative in the sense that every turn you play with someone else. So it's not like, okay, these 2 people are paired up and they're really good at giving each other clues. You're never going to be with the same, or you will, but it rotates, and it comes with the coolest little mechanism. It comes with this card. So depending how many people are playing the game, up to 3 to 6, you can say, oh, we've got 6 people playing. So this, it's like it makes it random for you. So on the first turn, player 1's going to give to player 2, and then player 3 is going to give to player 4. And so you just go down and you know who gives to who on the next turn. And then you have little cards. And so like, for example, on this card, all the answers sort of rhyme. Zip code, explode, a la mode, they sort of rhyme. And so like if I'm player 1 and I'm giving to player 2, I'm going to put it in this little sheath so I don't know what's coming up next. And I'll give you a clue for this word. And if you get it, I move to the next one. And if you get it, I move to the next one. So you're really just getting people to guess words, but each card has a theme. Like these all sort of rhyme. These all have a common word within them. Like they all have monkey.
Oh.
So it's like, oh, okay, you're going to guess all these things, but I don't know what the common word is, and neither do you, but you'll figure it out after a couple. But it's just a neat game because, again, you're not always giving and receiving clues with the same person. So it's a fun way to, everybody gets to play together. So it's semi-cooperative, but still, if I get points and you get points, we both move on the board and someone still wins.
Isn't
That's
that
awesome.
similar to Taboo?
It's kind of similar in that way because you're trying to get them to guess words on a card. It is similar.
Awesome. Now, Lauren, you're in grad school right now.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that for a second? I mean, in terms of, are you able, I want to know, because like, I'm like, sometimes Josh, I'm able to get on, like we're on Discord. Okay. I want to talk about Discord just because I think some folks, I don't know who will watch this, may not be on it and might not know what it is. Are you on Discord, Lauren? You guys, Lauren's not, Marie's not, Lauren's not.
I'm on Discord.
Lauren has an account. She's in the same group as us. She just doesn't pop on very often, but she's used it.
Because it allows you to have an audio channel so that you can put your headphones on and talk to everybody like a conference call or whatever without having to be in a video chat which means that you could teach each other board games and then be live on a website like Board Game Arena or Tabletopia. So you wouldn't be on Zoom, but I don't know if you can do, there's a sort of a learning curve for it. Like if you're not like an old school person who is like, you know, on Linux or whatever back in the day, like a programmer. I mean, I'm not saying, because I'm not a programmer, but I can do it, but I'm still like slow with it. But it's worth talking about because it actually is really fun. And then you have an ongoing chat room, like a club for your friends that you just log into at any time and you see who's available and who wants to play.
Yeah, it's something similar to this Zoom meeting. I mean, you could have video if you want. You can actually turn that on, but basically the same thing would be like as if we just disabled all our video and we could chat, but Discord keeps it going. It calls it a server instead of like a one-time Zoom meeting. And so anyone can just pop in and out and just read the continuous text channel. Nothing ever gets deleted unless the user deletes it, I guess. So it's more informal and continuous that way.
And there are church groups, for example, that, you know, like C3 has a regular, like they used to have a regular Monday night board game thing, or sometimes there'd be like music videos. Like we just like show each other our favorite music videos on YouTube or whatever, which was really nice. Like I don't have time to check in with those guys as much as I'd like to. And I think now they watch movies and stuff, but like, you know, as the pandemic goes on, I feel like for you, Lauren, and like there's certain things that might feel relaxing and fun. And then some things just feel like too much hassle because you're doing too much. And I'm like that too. I go through phases where board games sound like fun and other times they feel like too exhausting, especially online. Like some days I can't do it. Some days I can't even watch a movie because all I want to do is listen to music and stare out into space. So
like a cat just stare at a wall. Yeah. That's more relaxing. Just look at your hands.
You just have to process. Everybody's got different ways of trying to like process and relax. And I think that that's been interesting. You kind of learn how, you know, everybody's different that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah,
There's
I feel like I multitask a lot. Yeah.
Sorry, Lauren, what were you saying?
No, I feel like I have ADHD. Like I multitask a lot. I just feel like I kind of feel like everyone is, honestly. Like we live in this very technological society, and like almost any job is like needs to be able to multitask. Like can you work in a fast-paced environment? Like you have to adapt to that. There's not a lot of jobs where you can just coast. I'm just gonna go at my own pace. So I mean, I'll be like on social media or doing like research while there's something playing on in the background, and then, you know, sometimes you just, like you said, music. Like something I do on Discord, started doing is karaoke, and that's really great because I used to remember going out doing that, and so yeah, I mean, like some people have their own little setup with a mic. I think that'll be nice to, you know, maybe eventually incorporate. But I feel like that's always really uplifting. I mean, it's not board games, but it's socialization. So.
And when you do the karaoke, like, do you watch the other people singing?
Yeah, it's just like this. You know, you have the panel. It's like Zoom. Same on, you know, it's on Discord, and like Josh said, you can pop in and out. People mute themselves when you're singing, and then you can share screen. So if you like, I'll go on YouTube, you know, find the karaoke version of a song. And so people can see the screen.
Cool.
Usually you can't see them, but while you're singing, because you're sharing screen. But yeah. Haven't done that in a while either. I just really busy, but nice little break every now and then to do that.
There's time. Sorry, go ahead, Marie.
Oh, I was just gonna say, we don't have to delve into this, but this game called Just One, it came out just, I want to say a couple of years ago. Of course, time seems to be weird now, but a couple years ago, 5 years ago, but Just One, it's a really good game for a lot of people. There's really, if you play with the game itself, it comes with like 8 little things, they're little whiteboards, but you can just write on pieces of paper. Like this is what I play a lot with my family. We'll do a Zoom call and there'll be like 12 of us on a call. And it's easy to learn. It's a quick learn. And it's great for people who maybe don't go deep into games, or if they do, it's super fun. But it's just it's been a successful game for lots of people. And like, if you have a bunch of people on a Zoom, and even if people don't know each other, it's like, hey, let's play just one. And it's like you're giving a one-word clue for a card, and you write it on your little whiteboard, and you're like, hey, here's my clue, and everybody tries to figure out what the thing was. Anyway, but it's worth looking up if you're looking for a game that's for a lot of people, and a quick, hey, I can teach you this game in 5 minutes and we can play.
That sounds great. Thank you.
It's a good one.
That's good. Yeah, I know there's a night that like Chris and I got on Board Game Arena and we played Yahtzee, which like normally I'd be like, I'm not, that doesn't sound like fun. But it's just something that like sometimes you don't really want to talk, it's just like you just need something to do to keep your mind, and it's like so random. It's like push the button and then it'll give you a dice roll. Like there's like no brain power involved. But then I for some reason got like some really great combinations that night. So then I was like, I like Yahtzee. I didn't think I liked it, but hey, I got a Yahtzee. I don't know how that happened, but I'm like,
that's one of the games I don't know how to play, as well as backgammon. Like I just think of little old ladies playing. I don't know, like, I guess it's like certain generations play certain games, just like dominoes. I also like dominoes. I know you mentioned that. Yeah, people can get really competitive with that, or bones, what else it's called.
Reserved for like your older years when you have a lot of leisure time. And
Exactly.
you just don't have the brain power to think about them right now, and it doesn't sound like fun. So yeah, we've got lots of time to learn how to play.
Yeah, you can't forget bingo. I don't know if that counts, but yeah, that's also, that's brutal. You can win some prizes. I mean, I'm gonna be playing that. There we go. That's like the lotto. That's that's like winning the lotto. You got like, ooh, I got some good cards. Like you got the good numbers.
And I would be happy to show you backgammon on BGA.
Okay.
One thing that I'd like to tout about Board Game Arena is just how easy it makes things in terms of its automation, because it makes sure that you can only perform legal moves. And so it basically, the games almost teach themselves on there, even without a tutorial, because then you can just, except for like really complicated ones, you can figure out like what is allowed, and then from there deduce what is optimal. It's really nice how it holds your hand. The system is really efficient. And there are so many games on there that are free. You just need to register an account.
Yes. And I really like Hanabi, which is a card game that you taught me, which is kind of collaborative, right?
And intensely. That is a completely silent collaborative game. Yeah.
Though strangers that I played with because you can play with complete strangers on Board Game Arena. And it's usually fun, but then I'd get people, because I'm still learning the game, going, why didn't you do it this way? And I'd be like, dude, I'm just learning. Give me a break.
You're not my mom.
Yeah, thank you. And feel free to post that in the comments too, Josh. The link later on, so everybody can see that, how to get on Board Game Arena, and we'll put Discord on there. I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, Josh also taught me how to play a game called Letter Tycoon, which is really fun. Oh, and we're almost out of time. Holy smokes. This hour went by so fast, and I'd love to hear more stories, and I want to have you all back to talk about this again.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll do this again. Thank you for being wonderful guests. I can't believe it's 4 o'clock already.
This is so awesome. Thank you so much for having me on.
It.
This is great.
Yeah, learning about new games. Yeah, eventually could teach me backgammon.
It'll happen. All right, well, feel free to comment live if you're watching this in a replay. It won't be live, I shouldn't say that, but post comments and we'll write back if we see your comment, and we'll answer any questions you have. Take care, and next week we'll be talking about creative work on a deadline. I won't be here, but Leah Finkelstein will be hosting, so tune in next week. Bye guys.
Thanks, Betsy.